If you've ever thought my niche is too saturated, I don't have any original ideas, and there are already hundreds of other creators in my niche already talking about this, so why would anyone follow me? I want to challenge that. Because if that were true, we wouldn't have brands like Coca Cola and Pepsi or Nike and Adidas, where they're both in the exact same category and they have incredibly similar products, yet they both manage to build wildly successful brands. So their success doesn't come from being the only ones doing what they do. It comes from other factors that are working in the background. Factors that make someone choose one brand over the other, even if they're both doing something very similar. And in this video, I'm going to show you different ways that you can make your personal brand stand out, even in a niche that feels saturated. And instead of looking at $1 million brands with massive marketing budgets, we're going to look at examples of real creators. Because if they can do it, so can you. So let's get into it. The first way to stand out is to do it simpler. A lot of people think that in order to be seen as an expert, they need to sound like one. So they fill their content with technical terms, industry jargon, and complicated explanations. But I actually think the opposite is true. A real expert is someone who can take a complex idea and explain it so simply that anyone can understand it. And I have the perfect example of this. A while ago, I wanted to learn how to use Photoshop. And so I did what everyone would do, right? I went on YouTube, I went on Instagram, and I searched for beginner tutorials. But almost every creator I came across made this exact same mistake. Their videos were labeled beginner, but they still jumped to the software before explaining the basics. They assumed you already knew things like knowing how to create an artboard or knowing what the different art tools actually did. And as a complete beginner, honestly, it was really overwhelming. But that's when I came across this creator called Roya So Artsy, and she had a series titled Photoshop Kindergarten. And just by looking at the name of her series, I immediately understood what her entire brand was about. By using the words Photoshop Kindergarten, I could understand that she was not just teaching Photoshop, but she was explaining it as if to a 5-year-old. And that one key differentiator changed the entire way that I saw her content. And so you can see that she didn't stand out because she was doing something that no one else did. She stood out because she was the only one who could explain it more simply than all her competitors out there. And that's exactly what I mean by do it simpler. This works especially well if you are in a niche that is usually seen as difficult, technical, or intimidating. So niches like science, tech, investing, finance, coding, legal topics, and even complex software. Because most people enter those pages expecting the content to be confusing. So when you become the person who makes it simple and approachable, you instantly become memorable in their minds. So instead of asking yourself, how can I sound more knowledgeable? Ask yourself, how can I explain this so simply that even a 10-year-old can understand? Because most people will not remember the creator who made them feel confused. They will remember the creator who explained something so simply that it stuck in their minds. And that brings me to the second way, which is to create a recognizable visual identity. Now, most people think this just means choosing a few brand fonts and colors. And yes, that is part of it, where you pick 2 to 3 colors and fonts and use them consistently in your content so that your brand feels cohesive. But there's another layer that most people often overlook, and that's having repeating visual elements that people start associating with you. It could be the way you dress, a signature accessory, your hairstyle, a signature object that always appears in your video, or even the environment that you film in. Now here's where a lot of creators make this mistake. They look at what everyone else in their niche is doing and they think, I should make my content look exactly like that. So they copy the same colors, the same fonts, and the same editing style that everyone else is using. But the problem is that's the fastest way to blend in. Instead, you want to look at what everyone else in your niche is doing and ask yourself, what would the opposite of this look like? For example, in the digital marketing and personal branding space, a lot of creators were leaning into a similar aesthetic. Modern, minimal, neutral tones, muted blues. and just a very polished and corporate feel. And that's where creators like Mia from Floofy Socials or Ava from Personal Brand Launch went in a completely opposite direction. Instead of blending into that minimal aesthetic, they used bright and bold colors to create a more playful visual identity. And this contrast is what makes their content instantly recognizable. So, first, study what everyone else in your niche is doing, and then think of how you can intentionally go in the opposite direction, whether that's through your branding, your fonts, your colors, your filming style, or even the location that you film in. And that brings me to the third way that you can build a standout personal brand, and that is through your unique point of view. And in my personal opinion, I think this is one of the more important ways in which you can create a standout brand. Because here's the thing, two creators can teach the exact same topic on the exact same platform to the exact same audience and still feel completely different because of the way they see the world. Your point of view is made up of your beliefs, your values, your personal opinions, and experiences. And so every piece of content you create should get filtered through that lens. Let me give you an example. Say you're in the fashion niche. And most creators you see are constantly pushing the latest trends, sharing their weekly hauls, and encouraging people to buy more. But maybe your belief is that people should own fewer, higher quality pieces that they'll wear for years. So when you create content, you share more slower, sustainable fashion looks and recommendations. So do you see how two creators in the exact same niche can showcase their content through different angles based on their personal beliefs and values? Or say you're in the business niche where a lot of creators are pushing the hustle culture. Wake up at 5 a.m., work 16-hour days, scale as fast as possible, post every day. But maybe your personal belief is that building a business should support your life, not consume it. You'd rather grow slowly and sustainably than chasing rapid business growth. And when you create content from this angle, you'll naturally attract those people who are tired of the hustle culture and want something that's more sustainable. Again, same niche, two different angles, and that angle is your edge. So here's a simple exercise that you can do to identify your unique value angle. Write down the common advice that gets repeated over and over in your niche. What is everyone saying? What are creators constantly telling people that they have to do? Then go through that list and see which ones you disagree with. Do you have a different opinion, or do you have a different experience that contradicts what the common belief is? And that right there is your unique angle. And once you weave that into every piece of content you create, you build something that is undeniably yours. Okay, and moving on to the fourth way to differentiate yourself, and that is by your audience. That is who your content is for. For example, if you are in the fitness niche, is your audience busy professionals who only have 15 minutes a day to work out? Or is it postpartum moms who are trying to rebuild their strength? Or is it even older adults who are trying to prevent age-related muscle loss? They're all interested in fitness, but they're each trying to solve a very different problem. That means the way you teach, the examples you use, and even the way you explain things will naturally change because you're speaking to a different person. Let me give you another example. These two creators are both in the content creation niche, but they each serve a very different audience, and that's exactly how they've built standout personal brands. The first creator is Seema Batavia. She teaches content creation, but she has intentionally created content for introverted creators. She knows that a lot of traditional creator advice is built around being loud, outgoing, or constantly showing your face on camera. So instead, she teaches content creation in a way that works with an introvert's personality rather than against it. And compare that to Coffee Contracts by Haley Ingram. She also teaches content creation and social media, but exclusively for real estate agents. She's taken general marketing principles and tailored them to one very specific profession that relies heavily on social media to generate leads. Both are in the content creation niche, both teach social media, but they feel completely different because they're talking to two completely different audiences. Instead of asking yourself, how can I be different? Ask yourself, is there a group that's underserved, overlooked, or needs a different approach than what everyone else in your niche is teaching? Because the narrower you go, the easier it is to stand out. You're no longer trying to be the creator for everyone, you're becoming the go to creator for a specific group of people. And that brings me to the fifth way to differentiate yourself, and that is through your unique method. In other words, how you help people achieve the result they want. Take creators like Cody Sanchez, Millie Adrian, and Graham Stefan. They're all in the same make money online niche, but they each have their own distinct method. For Cody, it's through buying and growing what she calls boring businesses. Whereas for Millie, it's by building a personal brand, creating content online, and monetizing through digital products. And for Graham, it's real estate investing and making smarter decisions with your money. Same broad niche, but three completely different paths to get there. Or you might be someone who helps businesses attract more clients. For one creator, their method could be through organic content, whereas for another creator, it could be through paid ads. Again, the goal is the same, but the path is different. And to give you one last example, take the fashion niche. Creators like Monique Dale and Meg Kaiser are known for their effortless, timeless wardrobes built around neutral pieces and casual basics. Whereas creators like Dahana or Molly lean into more bold styling with statement pieces and more experimental outfits. They're all helping people dress well, but they each have their own different method to get there. So ask yourself, what is my way of solving this problem? Because you can have two creators promise the same outcome, but the path they help their audience take to reach that goal can be very different. And that brings me to the final way to stand out, and honestly, the one that ties everything else together, and that is through showcasing your personality. Because at the end of the day, a personal brand is built around you. The goal isn't to become someone else, but to amplify the traits that make you who you are. If you're naturally loud, expressive, and a little chaotic, just lean into that, and your editing style can really bring out your personality. You can use faster cuts, unexpected zooms, funny sound effects, and really playful visuals. These choices don't just make your content more entertaining, but they actually reinforce how your personality comes through in your content. But if you're naturally, calm and soft-spoken, don't force yourself to be all high energy. Speaking with a softer tone, using a very calm background music, minimal transitions, and really leaning into that softer editing style can actually become what makes your content stand out. Think about the feeling you want people to get when they watch your videos. Do you want them to feel energized or inspired or calm down? Even the way you speak, the words you use, your humor, your storytelling style all contribute to how people experience your brand. And this is why your personality is the thread that connects everything else that we've already talked about. If you want the whole rundown on building a personal brand that stands out, you can go and watch this video next, which is almost like a mini masterclass in branding. But if you've already watched that video, I think you would like this video instead.